It's Chair Wheeler. Chair Randall appointed Chair Wheeler for today.
2 minutes to go live.
Are we not?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. We'll go ahead and start the meeting. I just want to note that
We are live. We are live.
we are live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're live. Excuse me. I thought we were live.
Alive and live.
You're very likely. Okay. Okay. Welcome everyone. We'll go ahead and start the meeting. I want to note that Chair Wheeler is with us this evening. She was appointed to the committee by Chair Randall to help ensure a quorum. So with that, I call to order the meeting of the NVTA Finance Committee for Thursday, October 12th, 2023. First, we have approval of the September 14th, 2023 draft minutes.
Madam Chair, I move approval of September 14, 2023 minutes.
Second. I'll second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, and next we have our only action item, acceptance of the FY 2023 audited financial statements and compliance reports. We have with us this evening Mr. Mike Garber from PB Mayor. So welcome this evening. Mr. Longview.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just start off saying that we actually accelerated the audit schedule, knowing that the authority desired to cancel the November meeting. So I do want to thank the PB Mayor's team for assisting us with that, and as well as recognize Peggy Teal, Deb, and Adnan, and the rest of the NVTA staff that worked very diligently to not only get the audit completed, which is an undertaking each year, but to also accelerate everything so that we can make our timely filing to the Auditor of Public Accounts by getting it adopted by the authority tonight. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Garber.
Great, thank you. And your next meeting's at 7, so I've got an hour. So
Have some other things.
okay. Well, just that was the only item.
You have a 60th now.
And I can do that as well. I can do whatever length that you would like. I will echo. I'll start with echoing what Mike said. I know that in working with Peggy and her team, that she had a goal this year that when I review the financials, I ink them up pretty good with lots of questions and comments and things. And I know that Peggy had a personal goal of reducing my questions and comments. And she did a phenomenal job this year. It's probably the best first draft that we've received in all the years that we've been doing this. So I just want to give a little kudos and shout out to her for that. Helps speed this process up when we get something that's that clean. It makes our jobs easier and we can go through things much quicker. Having said that, I will talk just a brief overview of the audit. I believe the financial statements in our report to the Finance Committee was sent to you, maybe in a link. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that. I'm sure you all get hundreds of emails a day and try to get to all of those important things that you can. Within those documents, most importantly, you received an unmodified opinion on the financial statement. So you got a clean opinion on the financial statements, the footnotes and everything that go with those. You also received a clean report on internal control. It's found in the very back of the document. So all the testing items we looked at, observations, inquiries, everything that we did not have any issues that we came across when looking at internal controls and compliance. So those are very key in the report. The other items that we're required to communicate is how did we get to those places with unmodified and clean reports. So in our procedures, we had no journal entries. We had no audit entries that we found. There were no past adjustments, anything that we found that needed to be considered. We didn't have a management letter comment or anything that we had suggestions there. Really, other items that we're supposed to communicate. Did we have difficulties with getting our procedures done? No, we did not. Did we have difficulties with management? No, we did not. We followed the independent standards as we always do. Did we do anything or did management do anything that we think would adhere our independence? Nothing of that nature happened. So a very clean audit, very clean report this year. And as always, I know that everybody, the regional fund is always got everybody's attention in the financials, and I won't flip through it because I'm the only one that has a copy that's printed in front of them. Oh, there's some there. But you know, when you're looking at that fund, it had an increase of approximately $200 million this year. So it has slowed slightly of how much we're bringing in and how much we're spending. We ended up, that fund ended up with about a $1.6 billion fund balance at the end of the year. A little over 1.2 billion of that is already spoken for in projects. And the other pieces are where we've made sure we've had some other restrictions and things that we've done internally. And of course, at the very back of these financials, you'll need your readers, but there's a 3-page schedule that details out that $1.2 billion in each project and locality and the name and so on and so forth. So you can see all of the projects and the remaining amounts that we have set aside for those projects. So that's at the very back of the financial
Very
statements
important.
as well.
Thank you.
It is. And I can't read it anymore either without my readers. So, but it is there and for everybody to look at, and for anyone, you know, outside of your all's regions or in your region, but your citizens, if they want to see where these projects are, it's a great place to put their attention. With that, I don't think I have anything else that I need to go over. And I don't have anything else prepared to talk about as far as the financials. We did adopt, Peggy and her team did spend some time to adopt a new GASB standard. And at the end of the day, it came out to a nothing. There was nothing to adopt, but we had to do some homework and some research. We had to do some extra auditing procedures to verify that there was nothing to accrue and add to the financial statements. And so we did adopt a new standard. There was a little extra work involved in that this year, but at the end of the day, it had no impact on the financial statements. And luckily, the few standards that are out there that we haven't adopted are very small changes. So hopefully the next year or two, we'll not see any huge changes in the accounting pronouncements and what we have to do. So it's nice to take a breath.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions?
Sure, Madam Chair. I was joking about the 1 minute a few minutes ago. We all agree it's very, very important.
Yes, sir.
So that was really just not meant to be taken seriously, and you didn't. So thanks for that. So we're responsible for a lot of money, to say the least, and you've given us a clean audit. Do you have any other recommendations beyond the report that you've given us, which is clean and found no issues? Anything else that occurs to you that we ought to be thinking about?
You know, those off the balance sheet risks, those types of things. Mr. Long and I were just, he sent me an email probably a month ago on some alternative investments and was kind of wanted my opinion on those. I hadn't had a chance to reply to him because we were just busy, and I knew I'd have a chance to catch up with him this evening. So, you know, there are some things maybe in the investment world that we could look at. The things that he and I were talking about, and I don't want to skew anyone's opinion. He may be bringing it to you in a month or two to do this. So I don't want to sit here and go, they scare me. But they are asset-backed mortgage type investments, and they scare me. But with the amount of funds that you have, there may be some alternative type investments for you to think about, to look into. There's nothing wrong right now in our market with getting 4.5%, 5.5%, especially with you have no debt, so you're not paying anything. You have very little debt. You have the one bond we issued back in 2014, but we really don't have any debt. So having those funds and being able to invest them, I would say safely, and get those types of return with public funds is really good. It's better than we've been able to do for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. So, you know, always be looking, because that is your balance sheet. I mean, that's your whole audit, honestly, is those funds, how we invest them, how we take care of them, and then when they go out the door. Mm-hmm. That's your audit in a nutshell. There's a whole lot of other stuff that goes into this 80 pages, but that's the audit in a nutshell. So that's an area that we have changed our auditing standards and what we do. We've started using an outside third party that confirms almost 100% of that investment balance for us. So we're not out here trying to test it and confirm it ourselves. We use this very group called Harvest. They're known nationwide for doing that very thing. So to me, that if there's an area of concern, area of risk, it's in that big number.
And on the, if I may, on the investment item that Mike mentioned, I doubt you're going to be seeing the staff recommendation. It came up through discussions. Those instruments are in use in other portfolios in Virginia. And so as I've done in the past, I raised a question and got his perspective on them. Quite frankly, as we were talking this evening, I'm waiting for an attorney's general opinion to come out because I understand a question was submitted to the state attorney general. But even if the attorney general's position were that they were permissible under Virginia law, I still, part of it is Deb and I will take a look at somebody else's portfolio and see what they're doing, and then question ourselves, why are we not doing it? It's the process that's kind of an undercurrent of what we do on a regular basis. You know, you have the action item at the authority level tonight to actually take an investment out of the policy, you know, that we're not using, that we discussed last month, the overnight repos. So the only thing I can add to what he said is, you know, he said 4.5. Deb would not take a 4.5 security right now. She's hitting 6s.
Awesome.
So what I'm taking from this discussion is that, and I think it's a really good idea, you seek independent review on changes, and that that's been offered, and that whatever you present to us will be the result of that sort of discussion.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
the PV mayors audits, you know, a lot of localities and agencies in Virginia. And so the perspective, we can go to one place and find out what other people are doing outside the region, as well as within the region. Within the region, we can pick up the phone and ask.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to follow up with that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swider. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair, if I could, I just want to thank the finance team. They make life a lot easier for me, particularly Peggy. I mean, the audit she is the lead on it, and she does it flawless. It looks flawlessly on my end, but she and Deb and the rest of the finance team.
We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Long, do you have anything to add?
Nothing else.
Okay, we need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to recommend authority approval of acceptance of the FY 2023 audit.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Barber, we appreciate you being here this evening. Have a safe trip back.
I think I'm going to see you at 7.
He's gonna hang
Oh,
around.
you're sticking
There's
with
dinner
us.
in the-
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I had something, but if it's okay, I'll just, I'll leave the table. So thank you.
Okay. Move on to number 4, FY25 budget guidance discussions. Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time of year we start our budget process, and we have started that off with basically just a recap of the authority's 3 budgets and prior guidance that the committee and the authority have provided to staff. So I'll just quickly go over the 3 budgets and then hit the calendar, and then obviously look for any inputs that the committee wants to provide. The first budget we talk about is the local distribution fund budget, which is the 30%. That's a pretty simple budget process. We receive the money, we take 30%, we send it out as soon as we can, depending upon the certification status of the jurisdictions. And over 10 years, all jurisdictions have always met their certification requirements. The only particular wording in this budget is that we know that the one number the budget won't be is what we actually estimated it to be, down to the penny. So we have wording in the budget that says we will distribute the 30% based on the funds as they're received from the Commonwealth in compliance with the state code. That way we don't have to keep coming back if we're a little over or a little under at any point in time during the fiscal year. Are there any questions on the local distribution fund budget? The next one is the one everybody loves, which is the regional revenue fund budget. We are currently going through the process of updating the revenue estimates for 25 through 29. That process will then kick off what we call the pay-go analysis, which is where we take the revenue estimates, we add and subtract a number of things. I think it's about 13 steps in the calculation. We take out debt service payments, we add in positive carryover, we add in investment earnings. That gets us to what we end up recommending to the authority as the amount of funds eligible for the next 2-year update to the 6-year program. And a big part of that, we'll be talking about this a little later this evening, is grantor's tax, which is based on real estate transactions, both the value of the transaction and the frequency of the transactions is proving to be a bit of a challenge. And I'll just say part of this process, we have what we call a taper to make sure that the revenue that we know is going to fluctuate year to year is smoothed out over the project approval life cycle, so that the aim is we will never have to come back to you and ask you to cut a project because the funds aren't going to be there. So that is basically the guidance we received over the years on that budget. The operating fund budget, which is how we actually pay for our operations. We have in the past presented this on 2 bases. One is the current budget with any escalations required by contracts, any inflationary increases that we assume are going to occur, and we take out any one-time funding that was in the prior budget. And so we show that in one column, and then the next column is any major initiatives that we are asking the authority to approve. So we're I believe, very transparent in the budget presentation. We outline all of the escalations that are kind of normal course of business. We also have often some decreases, and we will have some of those this year as well. And then anything that's a new initiative, we give you a write-up and cost it out for you. With that, knowing that the November authority meeting is going to be canceled, we're looking for December to come back to you with kind of a more fleshed out version with numbers on those 3 budgets and with our proposals for any changes to those budgets. And if the committee would like to give us any additional guidance, we're here to listen.
Thank you, Mr. Longy. Are we planning any staff additions?
We are discussing it internally.
Okay.
And if I could, Madam Chair, Mr. Longy, can you remind the committee of our 4 revenue streams?
We have sales tax, which is our #1 revenue stream. We have grantor's tax, which is taxes on deeds. And I believe all of your jurisdictions are experiencing the same things we are with grantors. We have the interstate operations and enhancement program, which is 8.7% of the fund balance. And that is a fund that's on the books of the Commonwealth. So we don't have any way to actually estimate that. We receive that estimate from VDOT. And then the 4th revenue is a $20 million set transfer from the Northern Virginia Transportation District Fund. That's just a flat $5 million every quarter.
Thank you for the reminder. Comments or questions?
Just a real quick question. Was it Richmond County that got more of their grantor's tax because we didn't have the metro funding?
Yes.
So will we be hurt proportionally more because of that? If what the grantor's tax is down lower? I'm just sort of, why do they know that? I don't really care.
I'm sure they know it.
Okay.
But yes, it's
It was the extra something percentage because we didn't have the metro. Okay.
Mr. Snyder, do you have anything?
So the grantor's tax follows basically what we're seeing in the real estate market. as driven by interest rates.
There's-
To make that clear.
The two large drivers on grantor's tax are the volume of the transactions, the number of sales, and the value of the sales. And what we saw in 23 is the number of sales trailed off, but the value of the sales basically stayed the same. Worst case scenario is the volume goes down and the value goes down. I can even go back to 2008, 2009. I was in a different role, but was observing that the volume of sales, the value of sales went down, but, and there's a human cost on this, the volume went up because of foreclosures. So when we had that, oftentimes referred to as a real estate recession, when we had that real estate recession, grantors wasn't as damaged as it could have been, simply because the number of foreclosures meant legal filings, which meant the tax was being paid.
Good question.
Yes, ma'am.
But I mean, housing prices have gone up substantially over the last 3 years, right? And the volumes of transactions have gone down, obviously, and now they're going down because no one wants to move because they don't want to assume another mortgage. But I don't think housing prices themselves are going down.
No.
Okay, because I look
Well,
over year over
let me-
year, not as escalating as much.
Well, let me just add to that. Housing prices are stable. Industrial space is stable. Office prices are going down. And so, it's not only residential, that's a large part of the volume, transaction volume, but depending upon the individual jurisdiction, you could have more value from your grantor's tax from commercial property than you do on residential.
Any follow-up?
No, we don't have as much commercial office space, and ours just has low vacancy rates, so we're actually doing well in Pennsylvania County, but this is the difference.
Well, and each jurisdiction,
Is there?
and the tax is not a linear tax across the region. It's based on transaction in each jurisdiction.
And if I could add, I think in 2020, when COVID hit, we were actually doing a funding program. We were surprised, in addition to sales tax skyrocketing, grantor's tax skyrocketed as well. So that was surprising. Homes were being bought. There were bidding wars. So we saw
Some people moved during that time.
some people move.
Any other comments or questions? Do you have anything to add?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Moving on to the monthly investment portfolio report, Ms. Zen.
Thank you, Mayor Shan. We are currently investing in a 2 to 3 year maturity schedule, and like Mike said, we are only buying investment or securities that are paying us about 5.5% to 6%. And we're also assessing our callable options so that we want to make sure that eventually when the securities get called, we should be able to know that when the securities get called and what percentage they are currently in. So that's all we are looking at. And other than that, on a daily basis, we are capturing the market trends and also taking care of or understanding the economic factors to make sure that we do our maturities and invest in the maturities accordingly. That's all I have.
We really appreciate all your efforts, your investment work that you're doing for the NVTA. We appreciate the entire finance department. And do you have anything to add, Mr. Lundy?
No, I'll just point out that with the approval of the policy changes for tonight's authority meeting, we put all the benchmarks on page 2 this time so that we can handle that transition.
Any comments or questions, Mr. Steiner? Do you have any? Okay. Moving on to number 6, monthly revenue report, Mr. Lundy.
It's a little early in the fiscal year to really get a good definition, as we talked about. We are watching grantor's tax. I do think our revenue estimation process and our PAYGO calculation has given us enough protection such as the downturn that we're seeing now is not going to impact our project funding. I will go quickly to page 2, because I do want to make sure the committee is aware. We had this in last month's report, but because we spent so much time talking about the lease, we didn't actually talk about it. So I do want to take the opportunity. Our revenue for fiscal 23 was actually slightly lower than fiscal 22. And it's obviously the grantor's tax had an impact on that. But additionally, we just didn't beat our estimates by as much as we did the previous year, which you can see down in the table below. In 22, we beat the estimate by 41 million, and that was somewhat left over from the pandemic estimate area where everybody thought the sky was going to fall, and we were in that block. So, that's the part of the change there. I do want to note the investment portfolio earned 9.5 million more than was estimated. And yes, that's change in interest rates, but I do think it's also Deb is doing an incredibly good job with that. So I just wanted to point that out on the revenue reports.
Thank goodness sales tax is strong. Any comments or questions on this? Okay, moving on to number 7, monthly operating budget, Mr. Longley.
Again, early in the fiscal year, we are 13% into, I'm sorry, we've only used 13% of our budget. We are 16% into the fiscal year. Most of that delta is actually the money that was targeted for the website modernization hasn't begun to be spent yet. We're in the getting ready for the procurement stage of it.
Comments or questions? Mr. Snyder?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, do we have an NVTA update verbal report?
Madam Chair, the only thing I will note that Chair Randall is looking to cancel the next month's authority meeting, which is 2 days after the election. And so you will probably receive, you being the authority, will receive an email from her tomorrow noting the cancellation of that meeting, because the bylaw says the chair cancels the meeting. There is nothing of urgency that needs to go before finance or the authority in November.
Then, well, since we're on the subject, I would certainly recommend canceling the finance committee meeting. Are we in agreement on that?
No, I didn't. We have nothing to talk about. No, I totally agree.
Okay, then it is canceled. Okay, thank you. You're a tease, Mr. Okay, we are now at closed session. Would you like to read us into closed session?
Yes. Before we do that, are we going to meet again for any action publicly, or is it done? Just should viewers hang around until we come back?
No, this will be the last item for the committee.
Right, and you don't expect any public discussion in the committee?
There's no action item coming from the closed session. This is a briefing.
Okay, I just wanted to let folks know in case they were watching. So thanks for that. So I move that the Finance Committee of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority convene a closed meeting as authorized by Virginia Code Sections 2.2-371183 and A29 for the purpose of discussing potential contractual arrangements by NVTA with third parties regarding the leasing of real estate necessary for the performance of NVTA statutory missions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carried.